I really love this decision.
Over the middle, got his man, and look at him go! Jalen Waddle for the touchdown!
Welcome to Inside Leverage, your gateway to the fascinating realm of the Miami Dolphins. Join us as we delve deep into the team's dynamic Super Bowl journey. We invite you to share your most scorching takes, unwind, and relish in our captivating experience.
He's got him! Tyreek Hill! And the Dolphins have come back! A big play on the first one! Home run! Play one! To the house! What a start for the Dolphins!
It's Inside Leverage. We always gonna put on the show, baby. That's what we do.
All right.
What is going on?
What's popping, gentlemen? What's popping?
Yo, what's good, everybody?
Well.
Oh, look who it is. Huh, wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Hilarious.
So,
Let's go.
Hey, it's Thursday. It's almost Friday. For me personally, it's Friday. I got tomorrow off, so. Unlike
it's Monday for me, baby.
It's Monday for you.
Every day is Friday.
Well, that's good. I guess for some of us, right?
Hey, I'm gonna lie y'all Fridays. It's Monday for me. Trench warfare.
Here I am.
Hey, there's Junior.
Did you get your fullbacks together? You good? Wally, you're might want to get
you guys got to get your headphones on, man. This feedback is killing me.
This is insane, bro.
Anyway,
yeah, you
so
got.
we got a pretty good show lined up, and in a couple minutes, in about 10 minutes or so, we got our guest is going to be joining us, Corey Yates, co-founder and CEO of Recruiting Analytics. He's been giving us a little background and some information on this new technology, which I personally am pretty hyped about. I know Chad was the one who reached out to him and tried to get him on the show, and we'll be hearing from him soon. Would you guys you have any thoughts on that?
You and technology, that's like an oxymoron,
I mean, hey,
it's insane.
That's why I'm the tech guy, bro. Can I tell you?
And it's real analytics. I don't know where you got recruiting analytics from, but
it's actually on his banner on his Twitter page.
It's real analytics. Yes, Corey Yates, CEO of Real Analytics.
Oh, okay. It says recruiting. We'll leave it as is.
Is it the eyesight? It's the eyesight.
No, it's not the eyesight. I can read, but it's okay. Anyway, Real Analytics, Corey Yates on tap. You guys know anything about that?
I mean,
looking forward to Corey joining the show with us, man. Overall, just excited about the opportunity to be able to speak with him about the technology that they have over there, man. They track real live, like game speed. They have like mouth power trackers on the players and stuff like that, like throughout the game. So it's real exciting, man. Go to hear what he got going on and how they go about doing what they do, man, and just get some good insight on some players in the scouting process.
Man, this has been a full week of just guys that we've had on the different shows talking about a lot of the the recruits and draft guys coming to the week. So yeah. What was that? The fullbacks. You've been talking about the fullbacks. Well, not just the fullbacks, but just the offensive line. Talking about the hey, I'm starting to move. I'm starting to transition to the linebackers. Oh, so you done with the fullbacks? So I'm done with the fullbacks. I got my list. And coach, can you please learn how to use a soundboard? Give us an alarming sound, something that's celebratory to fresh finishing his. Thank you guys. Thank you. Hey, I finished my list.
Chad, real quick. Does he cover analytics for like linebackers? I know receivers and possibly DBs, right? What about linebackers and stuff? Do you know if he does that or anybody? Yeah, because that was one of the questions I was going to ask. Like even
Thank you for answering, Chad. We appreciate
Bro, like
Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, so yeah, just wanted to it's gonna be a lot some, it's gonna be a good show to kind of talk about guys breaking
I'm looking for
breaking off
guys.
their routes, breaking the speed after the catch, all that good stuff. I'm interested to get more information about that.
Hey man, this has been a good week. I like where we're going. I like what a lot of the guys are talking about when they're talking about a lot of the guys that we've been talking about, a lot of the guys that you all been talking about. You all have been doing a lot more work as far as the in-depth guys, as far as specifically with the offensive lineman, whether it's tackle, whether it's guards, whether it's the center. So I mean, my thought process is changing a little bit as far as what I'm looking for and what I'm trying to get as far as specifically with the offensive lineman. I wanted a mauler, but I want a guy that's good in space. I don't just want just a stocky guy who can maul you to death, because you got to be versatile when you're on that offensive line. You never know if you might have to kick over or kick out. So, I mean, we're gonna see, man. I feel like we're gonna get some good players in this draft, no matter where we go. The biggest question on the draft is whether or not we keep that first pick or we trade back and make another move with it. But I mean, it's going to be determined based on kind of how the draft starts and whether or not guys, go on the run or certain positions go on the run. So we'll see.
Well, French, remember this guy covers more skill sets, so maybe that's a topic we can kind of focus on with, receivers that might not be a surprise at 21 or later rounds, a running back, and DBs. You know what I'm saying? So this guy.
That high mechanic?
Did you grab what? A receiver? It depends. There's a lot of good receivers that could fall to us, and we need a third option. So I don't see why not. I wouldn't be surprised personally.
Chad, do you grab a receiver that high?
Bro, it's best player available no matter what position they are outside of quarterback, bro. Like it's all about good players on your football team. You can't just say, you can't hone in on one particular position. And you guys, throughout this whole entire process, I've been talking to you guys day in and day out. You guys are just focusing and honing in on particular positions, and you can't operate like that, bro. It's never going to be like that. You can't pass up on guys who are better for guys at positions that you value in particular. Like you gotta kind of marry the two.
You can't say BPA and be only looking at offensive linemen. That doesn't work that way. If we're doing our due diligence, we're scouting every position we're looking at. Some positions might be far fetched, but just like Chad said, if you come out there in the 21 and you see a generational talent, just because you have Tyreek Hill doesn't mean you don't take it. Like last year we want to say Flowers. What you talking about? It's whatever it takes.
Hey, real interesting. Corey Yates and Real Analytics did some analytics on Chris Barswell. He's an edge player for Alabama. I'm interested to hear his thoughts on that. He has what is called an IGA score of 98.7. So it'll be interesting to see where did that score come from? How did they accumulate that score? That's interesting. As I'm reading.
You know what, Junior? We got Corey here with us. So if you guys are ready, I'll bring him up to stage here and we can get him going. What do you guys think?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Corey.
What's going on? How you all doing?
Good, man. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you.
Welcome.
Corey.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Let me actually, before I get corrected again, it was my bad. It is Real Analytics. I was reading your profile and it's something else on your banner. So I want to apologize for that first and foremost.
No worries. It's an innocent mistake. So just quick background. So when I founded the company back in 2019, the company name at the time was Recruiting Analytics. And that is because we were helping college football programs evaluate and identify talent, right, to build their roster. And then we started to get interest at the NFL level, and we quickly realized that we needed to pivot from just focusing on high school prospects and transfer portal prospects to also focusing on draft prospects to help some of these NFL teams, improve their hit rate. So we rebranded from recruiting analytics to real analytics as of 2023. So you both were correct, but yeah, we're now real analytics. That's why I'm rocking the quarter top.
I see that. Go ahead, Chad.
Corey, appreciate you giving us your time. If you could, man, just give a little breakdown, a little background on what you guys do over there, and just to give a little brief, description on the technology and things for people that are not too familiar with what you guys over there at Real Analytics.
Yeah, absolutely. So we, as I mentioned before, founded the company in 2019, and it was really inspired by my son going through the recruiting process. So my background, I'm a former collegiate football player. And I played defensive back many years ago, right? And spent about 20 years in corporate America as a merchandising executive primarily. But in 2019, as my son was going through the recruiting process, I realized that these programs are utilizing the same tools and methods to A, identify players, and B, evaluate the players. So kind of given my background, not only in the home improvement space, but also in the consumer electronics space, I said, wow, there's a real opportunity here to integrate technology and data into the recruiting process and player evaluation process. And so the idea was really inspired by saying, look, what if we were able to measure in-game athleticism? So forget about the combine, forget about those tests, which they have its place, but boy, what if we could measure all of the things that they measure in the combine in the context of a live game? And that was really the goal, right? And so we were able to do that. So we soft launched in 2020. We started working with programs ranging in everywhere from University of Georgia, helping them upgrade the talent in their wide receiver room. Jay Harbaugh from Michigan reached out to us. I think it was in 2020 timeframe, wanted us to evaluate some players that they had and verify their speed and athleticism. So we were able to help them kind of build the core championship team that we just celebrated here recently. Out in the West Coast, we're working with University of Washington, Kansas State, TCU is a client of ours. And so we've been able to help these college programs build championship rosters. And we've been reached out to by a few NFL teams who understand the power of technology and data. That intersection can really help these programs identify and verify the two things that they're looking for. A, the big question for evaluators and coaches are, can he run? Well, we have technology that can verify that. And then secondly, how athletic is the player? And our IGA score, our in-game athleticism score, helps to do that.
Yeah, personally, I'm a big fan of what you guys do over there, because when you get down and you run that 40, it's a very technical drill. You might get a little too upright or whatever the case may be, and your time is off. But when you have those pads on it in the game and in the moment, what's that speed really look like? You know what I mean? And to see those guys get up to that 21, 22 miles per hour, you know what I mean, on the field while they're cutting, and you can really gauge the real athleticism actually, like, tangibly. You know what I mean? Because some guys can run 4.3, but on the field they don't really move like it. You're like, man, this guy is like, you know what I mean? So it's just real cool what you guys do over there. I'm a big fan, Corey. Big fan.
Yeah, and you hit it right on the head, because one of the challenges that we have as evaluators sometimes is when we turn on the tape. Now, this more so at the lower levels, right? At the high school levels, not so much at the collegiate level, but the high school level, you turn on the tape and you're evaluating a prospect, and you really, when you look using your eyes, you're not necessarily able to determine how fast a player is, especially if he's playing against subpar competition. It's hard to judge really, hey, is he really fast, or is just the players he's playing against slow? So we take that guesswork out, because we're going to tell you exactly how fast he is. And the college programs love that, because now they don't have to worry about the level of the competition, right? Doesn't matter if you run 21 miles an hour. I don't care if you're playing single A ball or at the highest level, 7A ball in the state of Texas. And so we take that guesswork out. We're able to verify how fast that player is in a game. And we're doing this, guys, by the way, all through video. So when you talk to coaches and you talk to evaluators, right, they tell you the honest God doesn't lie, right, which is absolutely right. We've taken it to the next level because we are verifying what coaches and scouts see on tape, right? And we're quantifying that. So when you talk to a defensive line coach and they say, look, I'm looking for an edge rusher that can convert speed to power, as an example, right? They can see it, right? But there's no way to quantify it. Well, we quantify it. And the reason why that's helpful is because now I can stack my board and say, yeah, you know what? If speed to power, if that conversion is important to me, now I can kind of stack my and prioritize these prospects based on their speed to power metric. And what we use is we use peak momentum force. So we take into account get off speed, we take into account size, we take into account how long it's taking them to get to the ball carrier, right? And then we've got a metric that says, hey, this player is generating, I'm making this up, 1,900 pounds of force, which, you know, to the layman doesn't really mean much. But then we take it a step further and we contextualize that raw data point by giving them the percentile ranking for that particular metric. So now as a coach, I can say, Coach Mike, you can say, yeah, I like Corey Yates. He can convert speed to power. He's generating 1,900 pounds of peak force. And that's in the top 10% of all edge rushers in the draft class. Now you have some context, right? You may not necessarily know what the hell peak momentum force is, but when you say, hey, you know what? He's in the top 10%, I get it. Does that make sense?
Reference. Yeah, point of reference.
Point of reference. Context means everything.
Corey, and speaking of that, it's very interesting, and I like to go even deeper, and I don't know if you guys do that as well. Maybe it might be a silly question. For guys like you're getting that information for, say, an edge rusher, do you compare that with the player or the conference or group or person that he's competing against and kind of see, hey, he's producing this force, but an average, this team or this person is producing this force, and you kind of compare. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
You're making a ton of sense. Yeah, you're making a ton of sense. The answer is yes. So when we evaluate and grade players out, we provide the peer comp, right? So how does he compare to other edge rushers in this case? And then we also provide them with the gold standard, which we use the gold standard as the NFL average. So when our clients are evaluating and they're stacking their board, they can see this particular edge rusher, how he ranks compared to the other 10 that are on the board. And then they can also see if he's above or below what we call the line. Is he above that NFL line or is he below the NFL line, right? So they have kind of a two-dimensional view of how that player compares. That's a great question.
Go ahead, French.
Corey, really quick. When you talk about data and analytics, is there any metrics you can use when you talk about the linebacker position, or when you talk about the cornerback position, you talk about like coverage and like being able to cover sideline to sideline, or just being able to cover in a specific zone? I look at cornerbacks, you typically got to cover against a wide receiver, but also think about like the linebacker going against a tight end. How do you measure what that linebacker can do? Because honestly, I feel like that's the skill set that a lot of these linebackers have to have now, incorporating that game, covering in space, as opposed to just being a downhill runner. So are there any metrics, or is there anything that you all use to quantify like coverage ability, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Thanks for the question. So for linebackers, everything we do is position specific. So that's kind of point one. So, you know, we're grading all of your skill positions, all of your semi-skill positions. I think I heard a question about the interior lineman. Unfortunately, we do not grade offensive interior lineman or defensive interior lineman. And that's primarily as a result of the fact that look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what my metrics say. If you don't have the requisite size, you're just not going to play at a certain level, right? If you're 5'10", 250 pounds, I don't care if you can bench a house and squat a car. You're just not going to play Division I football. You're just not going to play in the NFL. And so when we interviewed over 150 coaches and personnel execs back in 2019 to talk about this concept, they told us, like, hey, Corey, look, don't worry about the interior lineman. Don't worry about the big uglies. I hope I'm not offending anybody. I hope I'm a former cornerback. So
hey, I'm big and I'm ugly, so it's okay.
I'm a former cornerback. So no, but the big uglies, they were like, don't worry about that. The quarterbacks also, they told us not to worry about it as well. They were like, look, doesn't matter what your metrics and what the IGA score is on the quarterback. I'm going to want to see him throw live, and I'm going to want to get him on the whiteboard because it's played from shoulder up, right? So that's why you don't see us grading out the quarterback position from an IGA standpoint. If he's a dual threat, you know, we do have max speeds on certain quarterbacks if they're a dual threat. But in terms of an overall IGA score, in-game athleticism score, we don't have for the quarterback position. But getting to your question about the linebackers, some of the things that we look for, and by the way, I mentioned interviewing coaches and personnel execs. That's how we determine what metrics matter, because we sat down and we said, when you turn on the tape and you're looking and evaluating a linebacker, what are the traits you're looking for? They told us. We challenged our development team to go back and see if we can measure those things. And so for linebackers, we're measuring things like closing speed to ball carrier, right? So how quickly is that linebacker getting to the ball carrier on average in the game? We're also looking at contact speed. So a lot of times you hear people talk about play speed. Play speed means different things based on the position to us internally. If you're talking play speed for an inside linebacker, we're not necessarily talking about miles per hour in terms of top end speed. We want to know, is he running through the ball carriers, or is he slowing down his feet before it gets to contact? So we're looking at contact speed. If it's a safety, we're not necessarily looking at his top end speed or his max speed. We're looking at his closing speed. How quickly is he closing? Because that's going to give us a good indication of his range, right? We want rangy safeties, i.e. a Kyle Hamilton or a Brian Branch, right? Those two guys didn't run, great 40s. They were in the 4.6 range, but our data has them in the top 10% when it comes to closing speed. And now you can see it manifest itself on Saturday. Those guys came in and were immediate impact players right away. And so, yeah, Frenchie, we're measuring contact speed for linebackers. We're measuring closing speed to ball carrier for linebackers. Between those two things, you can get a sense for whether or not the guy can play in space, and especially when you turn the tape on.
Go ahead, Wally.
All right, Corey, thank you for your time. I was waiting for you to break down the DBs, man, because I'm looking for DBs, right? And I know you talk about speed. I don't know how to even make sense of it, but to me, I was looking like, when your DBs are always facing the wide receivers. Like, I'm pretty sure. Like, I want to know that turnaround, that fluidity turnaround speed. Like, I'm gonna turn around and run with the receiver to a receiver. Like, do you guys do any measurement on that?
We got you, brother. So we measure transition time, right? So again, everything you guys are talking about, we measure, right? From an athletic standpoint, right? Now, if you start talking about things like grit and heart, that's not our core competency. Right. But if you're talking about, hey, how fluid are his hips? Can he transition, right? Those are things that we measure, and we have a transition time that we utilize, and that's baked into our in-game athleticism score. So when I talk about the IGA score being position specific, each position has its own set of sub-metrics that make up that score. And for DBs, as an example, we're accounting for not only transition time, and let me be more clear, because we have a model for corners and we have a model for safeties. So for corners, we're measuring transition time, we're measuring average yards of separation allowed when he's targeted, right? So is he sticky in coverage, right? And if he is, to what extent? And then how does that compare to other cornerbacks in the NFL average? So, now you guys are kind of I can see you guys connecting the dots, say, yeah, this is, why wouldn't you do this, right? Why wouldn't you have this information when you're evaluating a player? And that's kind of the secret sauce and why we've been able to gain traction in the industry.
This is some geeky, like amazing. I don't mean like geeky, like disrespect, but this is stuff that we love, man. This is like detail. I love this, man.
Gotta have it. And the thing about it is, we believe that. So first of all, again, you guys heard my background, former collegiate player, spent some years in corporate America. But what you did not hear me say was, and I also coached for a brief cup of coffee as well. But at the collegiate level, but what you did not hear me say was, computer science major. You didn't hear me say anything about coding. You didn't hear me say anything about AI. You didn't hear me say anything about being a statistician, right? I'm a football guy first. And so when we developed this technology, we hired the best and brightest to help us bring the vision to life, because we think my co-founder is also a former, he's a Big Ten, used to be a Big Ten, all Big Ten linebacker at IU, but we're football guys. And so we think about it just the same way you guys are thinking about it. And then we go to the guys that have big brains and go, how do we measure this? Right? So just what you described is like, I want to be able to know how fluid this guy's hips are. How can we measure that? And they tell us the answer, right? I want to know, how quickly this guy's getting off the snap of the ball, and they measure that, right? And then it's our responsibility to make it easy for our customers to digest, because again, I'm a former college coach. I do not have a PhD in math or statistics. So I just want to know very simply, how fast did he run and how athletic he is. I don't want to hear about all this, peak momentum force and percentile rank. That's good stuff. And there's a group of customers who want that, and we provide that. But when you put it in front of a coach, if you give them a spreadsheet that's as long as both of our arms put together, you're going to lose them, and they're not going to understand it. So we make it very simple. We're going to give you 2 metrics, and if you want to understand more behind that, we can talk about that. But what you want to know is how fast he is and how athletic he is. We give you those answers. If you want to know more, we're more than happy to talk about it until your brain explodes. But we try to keep it simple.
Corey, really quick, because you're getting me excited.
Here we go. Don't ask about a fullback, Fred.
Listen, I got fullback metrics I want to get to later in the show. But let me ask you this, just kind of based on, I'm sorry, Coach. This one was at this was at the precipice. This was like one of those.
Go do your precipice thing, man.
Spare the moment. Yeah, go
ahead, bro. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
How and what? I'm trying to say this as educated as possible. You just to go back a little bit. You mentioned you had a little bit of coding and a little bit of science. What degree was that?
Well, no, I was saying I don't have
he
any
does not, right.
experience.
But what I was getting to that point, and what you were saying when you mentioned that was, how often and what you do you find new analytics? Because one of the things we talk about with Tua is like anticipation and stuff like that can't really be measured. But how often in almost like science and measuring things do you find new data that support a new theory, or just give you like to, you know what I mean? Like, how do you stumble onto new data within how you run your process to where like, well, this can be extrapolated to mean this in this context of that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, we do, right? So, we definitely, especially early on when we started building out our model to grade players, we were running across instances where we could not only track the players through videos and measure all the things I talked about: speed, acceleration, change of direction. Once you have that rich data set, then you can start to do some synthetic metrics. And what I mean by synthetic metrics is Now I can say, okay, well, if I can measure his average yards of separation, and then I can measure how quickly he closes to close that throwing window. I'm talking DB, right? So
Right.
if I, when I'm target, hey, I'm giving up 2 yards of separation and I'm closing that in 0.9 seconds. Okay. Then the next logical thing is like, oh, well, then that means he's closing at a rate of X, right? Now, those are some of the things that we talk about internally that we can start to generate derived metrics from the basics of what we're measuring, right? So the short answer, that was a long answer to say, yes, we do have additional metrics that have come up that we've developed and put out there. And then for the quarterback position in particular, I mentioned in 2020, actually in 2019, when we were doing our interviews, they were telling us, coaches were telling us, don't worry about the quarterbacks. We're going to bring them in. We want to see them throw live. It's above the head. It's above the shoulders. It's what it's about. The league and the college space has evolved very quickly. Now, if you fast forward it, right, not only, because of the dual threat quarterback becoming more prevalent, everybody looking for the next Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, right? Now they're wanting to understand how athletic the quarterback position is. That wasn't as much of a thing in 2020, in 2019. Now it is. And so we're starting to, we have on our technology roadmap quarterback metrics that we'll be generating to help these coaches evaluate from an objective standpoint the quarterback. They're still going to bring them in. They're still going to want to understand and put them up on a whiteboard and do those things. But before they invest any dollars in flying him in for a tryout, if you're at the NFL level, or flying him in on an official visit if you're at the collegiate level, they're probably going to lean on us for a baseline of athleticism before they make that investment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that made perfect sense. Thank you so much, Corey. Because I was just thinking about that. Go ahead, Coach. I know, Coach.
Who were they at? So who's the fullback guru on here? I'm trying to figure that out.
That guy you were just speaking to right now.
I'm the fullback guru. I got a lot of
allegedly
fullbacks and kind of what I've been scouting in off season. But we'll talk about that at the end of the show.
Okay. All right.
Corey, he just likes to ask 1,000 questions, and he's just the guy of a team.
I'm the analytics guy here on the show.
Oh, he's that. Okay, go ahead, Coach.
Hey, Corey, listen, I have it's actually a two-part question, two quick questions. Number one, are you strictly doing NFL and football?
No, we do high school as well. Or when I say high school, college, and NFL.
Well, I mean, as far as football only, right? You don't do baseball. You don't do any.
Yeah, so we're football only right now, right? And then we'll expand to field adjacent sports here in the next 12 to 18 months, and then we'll get into some of the other high participating sports such as track and field and basketball as well.
I'm just saying, Corey, because the Red Sox and Marlins could use your analytics right now.
Now, the reason I ask, I used to coach high school baseball, so a lot of the analytics and part of that, and it kind of brought me back to the days where my son was playing high school baseball, and that's kind of like how I ended up getting into coaching, was because of his interest in the game. So when you started talking about that, it kind of brought me back. I was curious to see, because there is a market for that. There's a lot of recruiting when it comes to that, that sport itself from high school to college. So, and I'm sure there's an aspect of analytics in that sport as well. So I was just curious about that. So appreciate that answer.
Yeah.
My other answer is actually, my other question is, I'm a tech guy by trade, my 9 to 5, and I'm an IT guy. So I'm sure you're well aware with the whole, rage with AI and the way technology is evolving now. How does that, do you know, or have the answer of how, if you're using AI and how that's integrating as far as the video portion is concerned to come up with the numbers and the actual data?
Yeah. So we are using AI. So we're using artificial intelligence to be able to do what we do, because as you can imagine, especially at the youth and high school level, there are no the tracking devices, the wearable tracking devices. It's not prevalent across the vast majority of high school teams. You may have some that are using the wearable catapult vest, right? But it's a very expensive proposition to outfit an entire team with those catapult vests, right? So we're using artificial intelligence, specifically computer vision, to be able to track these players and measure their speed and athleticism. So that's what we're doing. That also allows us to do a couple of things, right? Unlike wearable devices, and wearable devices are used again at the collegiate level, where they're wearing the GPS device, and then at the NFL level, they're using what's called RFID, radio frequency identification.
Right.
And those at the NFL level, it's very expensive to outfit in the entire stadium with the required sensors. And then, of course, the players are wearing the small chips inside the pads, the shoulder pads, and they also have small chips in the ball. Very expensive, and it's not cost effective for colleges to be able to do that. So at the college level, they're using the GPS technology, and that's the wearable device where you see the sports bras that the guys wear. And then at the high school level, right, there's virtually nothing, because again, even the GPS technology is relatively expensive. So by utilizing artificial intelligence, specifically computer vision, we're able to track high school players. We're also able to track college and NFL players to see how fast they are. And we don't have to be there. We don't have to have cameras there. We don't have to have equipment. So that gives us a competitive advantage from that perspective, from a cost-effective advantage. And then when you talk about the data, the beauty about computer vision and what we're doing is that we're able to go back in time to find out what made NFL players unique and special. So, again, I'll go back to one of my favorite players was Deion Sanders, right? Well, what made him great? We can go back and pull his tape and measure all the things we talked about earlier, all those traits, and see how he performed. And then now you have that benchmark, that threshold that can be used to determine how to stack players, right? So remember, I talked about that NFL average. Yes. All we did was reverse engineer those successful and unsuccessful players to be able to know what traits really matter. What traits really matter when at a particular position. We've even gone back as late as early, I shouldn't say late, as early as like the late 70s, where Eric Dickerson, we clocked him at like 20 miles an hour when he was in high school.
Wow.
So now we don't have, I wish, if I would have known, I probably would have queued it up to show you guys, but we don't have a conversion, because I'm a believer. My hypothesis is if he ran 20 miles an hour in the late 70s, and I think it was 1978 to be specific, number one, he was wearing, tennis shoes, because this was on what they call turf. And back then turf was, I'm gonna date myself. Back then turf was pretty much concrete and a rug. And so if you're running 20 miles an hour on concrete and tennis shoes, I would say today that's probably 21 miles an hour would be my guess.
That's fair.
But needless to say, if you're running 20 miles an hour back in the early 80s and the late 70s with the shoes and the surface, right? The surface these days are faster. Just like anything with technology, everything improves. Right. From the shoes, the cleats that the players are wearing, to the surface that they're running on. So long answer to your question. Yes, we are using artificial intelligence to do what we do.
Fascinating. Well, Chad, before you jump in, I don't want to lose the point. Corey, can you give me a rough estimate what it would cost let's say the sports brawl or something like that for like a high school team, just one player, just so I can mathematically in my head would try to figure out what it would cost.
Yeah, so it's gonna depending on the software that you get and kind of the way they go to market. But from a hardware standpoint, the sports bra is probably going to cost you anywhere from $200 to $400
each one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that's just the hardware. Then you have on top of that the software that's used to, download the data and then, different packages to customize reports. But yeah, so for each player, it'll cost you that. You do the math on that times. Yeah, it may be affordable for like an IMG,
right?
But it's not going to be affordable to the vast majority of high schools out there.
Right. No, yeah, I was just curious. I can see how it can get expensive. Go ahead, Chad. I'm sorry.
So Corey, let me ask you, who are some of these most athletic players coming out in this draft that we need to keep an eye on per like the IGA score? Like, what? Give us a few names, maybe for some guys that we should keep an eye on based on your findings through the Real Analytics.
Yeah, so I think I'll start with my favorite position, the cornerback position. No offense, Coach Frenchie. I don't want to insult you by not starting with the fullbacks, but so I would say Cam Hart, the Notre Dame corner, 6'2", long, physical, athletic. He has an IGA score of 99.5, which is through the roof, right? And by the way, not only are we measuring all of these things that I talked about earlier, we're also taking into account size. And so when you think about how fast this kid is running and how big he is, he's a 20+ miles per hour player, and he's doing that at 6'2". I think they list him at above 200 pounds, but I would guess he might be hovering around 200. So Cam Hart's an interesting prospect that scored extremely high from an in-game athleticism standpoint. Excellent closing speed, sticky in coverage, and really good top end speed. Again, 20+ miles an hour. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you're looking for somebody like a slot corner, somebody like in the 5'10", 5'11" range, the kid out of Michigan, Mike, how do you pronounce his name? Sainristil. So Mike Sainristil from Michigan, he's like a 5'10"-ish type slot corner, I would call him. His IGA score was a 97.5. Max speed was in the top 20%. So we have his max speed at 20.6 miles per hour, so he can run. There's no question about that. When you turn on the tape, he's physical in the run game. Like I said, he's playing slot, and having played the position before, quite honestly, the slot corner is a lot harder to play. I shouldn't say a lot, but it's harder to play inside than it is outside because you don't have any help. So like when you're playing inside, you got a two-way go you have to defend for the most part, depending on the scheme. But, if you're in zero coverage, it's, you have to defend a two-way go. Whereas if you're playing on the outside, you have that sideline help. That sideline is undefeated. It ain't never missed a tackle.
Correct.
Right. It ain't never missed a tackle. And so you have that help outside. So for me, I always like my I'm getting off on my personal tangent, but for me, I always look for I want my best cover guys to the extent that we don't need to match up on the outside, but I like my best cover guys in terms of their athleticism inside. They need to be uber athletic to play inside. On the outside, I like length. You don't have to be an athletic freak per se on the outside, especially at the collegiate level, because you got boundary and field corners. If you're boundary, you might be able to get away with a few athleticism deficits in the boundary, depending on the scheme again. But those are two names that kind of come top of mind. Let's see, running back, Frank Gore Jr. I think when I played in the 90s, in the late 90s, he was probably built like a fullback. Is that close enough to a fullback? No, but no, Frank Gore Jr. is a good prospect. He would be considered kind of a small school prospect, but his IGA score was 95.2 for us. We clocked him at a 21 plus miles per hour max speed, which is in the close to top 10%, top 11% to be exact. And so when he showed out at the East-West Shrine game, that wasn't a surprise to us because we already had data on him. So he's no surprise to us. And he's starting to climb up some boards, and he's coming from good stock too. Wide receivers, you have guys like Joshua Cephas. He has an in-game athleticism score of 92.3, 6'3", 185 out of UTSA, another small school prospect that a lot more people are becoming familiar with. He's got good ability in terms of creating separation, in terms of his top end speed. And then when you think about a yards after catch machine, a yak machine, Isaiah Williams, that's the kid out of Illinois. Man, this kid can make you miss in the phone booth. So he's got elite change of direction. I'm talking elite change of direction. We measure that, which is part of the reason why his IGA score is so high. We also measure yards after catch. And like I mentioned, he's a yak machine. So once he gets the ball in his hand, he's similar to like Zay Flowers in terms of his explosiveness with the ball in his hand. And then his top end speed is above, it's in the top 25%. So those are some of the few players that I can think of off the top of my head.
What was Williams' score?
97.8. 97.8. So really high. Then there's a small school prospect. So the Coker kid out of Holy Cross, I think it's, what is his name? Let me take a look. See, I should know. There's thousands of players that we go through. Jalen Coker. So have you guys heard of that kid?
No, not yet.
So Jalen Coker is one that he's a small school prospect.
I heard of Cephas. I seen Cephas.
Cephas, Jalen Coker, he's out of Holy Cross. He played in the East-West Shrine Bowl. He was called up to that bowl from the Hula Bowl. And so he played in the Hula Bowl earlier in January, then showed out there, and then got called up to the East-West Shrine. So I believe it was the East-West Shrine. Don't hold me to that. It was either East-West Shrine or Senior Bowl, but don't hold me to which one it was. But his IGA score is 99.5.
Wow.
Now he's going to be one to watch because, where he goes in the draft, he's not going to be, I don't anticipate him being a top 5 wide receiver pick. So, my guess is he'll go, he's probably a day 3 player, right? But I would not be surprised if he comes in and has an impact on whoever drafts him in the first, couple of years. Would not be surprised because, his IGA score is really, really high. But, teams are not going to, I would be surprised if someone took him in day 1 or day 2 because he's a small school prospect. And the strategy is probably that, they feel that they can get him in the later rounds, right? If I feel like I can get him in the later rounds, even though he might have a higher grade than, say, someone from a Power 5 school, I might wait, right? I might wait and take that chance because I feel like he's going to be there in later rounds. So I think he may go. I'd be surprised if he went on the back half of day 2. But he's probably more of a day 3 type prospect. But I think he's got a tremendous ceiling.
Court, really quick, couple prospects I wanted to ask you on in particular. Where do Kitchens and Newbin, where do they rank compared to Branch and Kyle Hamilton? You were kind of alluding to the range with the safeties earlier. How does Cameron Kitchens and Tyler Newbin from Minnesota, how do they match up with Branch and Kyle Hamilton from safety?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't have their numbers in front of me, but what I can tell you is that the Kitchens kid scored well for us. I do know he scored well. Again, I don't have the exact numbers, but he's going to be a player that scored really well for us. Primarily, look at him. I look at him. That's it, baby. Represent. Because of really two things. One, he can play in space, and so when you look at and turn on the tape, he's got the traits to be able to close really well. And then when he gets there, he's able to make the tackle most of the time. And you want a player that can not only get there but make the play when he gets there, and he can do that. So Kitchens is a player that our system likes. Again, I don't have his IGA, but I can follow up with you offline and give you those numbers.
And Corey, really quick,
we just out here, French. You gotta wait your turn. It's gonna be me.
No, hey, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do for next time. I'm gonna get those little ticker things when you go to the grocery store. 75, and then we'll give a number to French, and then go ahead, Wally.
Corey, hopefully we ain't taking too much of your time, man. You have time for a few more questions?
Yeah, I've got time for a couple more. Yeah.
Go ahead, Wally.
Corey, I know we talked about the fluidity of the cornerbacks. This is good from Jackson. I don't know if he did any work on him, but he's a 6'3", huge corner. And I was wondering, if you have any of those type of guys that are fluid with their movement and position time, or like your top 5 is coming up for this draft?
Yeah. So who was the kid? I caught the last name. I didn't catch the first name. You said Jackson. What was his first name?
Yeah, I think he's in a bag spot.
Your transitional guy.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm in a dead zone.
No. Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I can kind of connect the dots though. So some of the guys that transitioned really well for us in our system, Johnny Dixon. I don't know if I mentioned him before, but he's a cornerback that's got some pretty good length. He can transition really well, fluid hips. Josh Newton out of TCU, again, good size, good length, but he's extremely fluid. And you can see that not only in the transition time, but you can also see it in the average yards separation allowed when he's in coverage and when he's targeted. So those are the two players that kind of jump out to me in terms of guys that are just really fluid. And those two guys kind of stick out in my mind because while those other two I mentioned, Cam and Mike are definitely fluid, or otherwise their score wouldn't be as high as they are. Well, Cam is kind of unique because he's 6'2", but you would expect, a slot corner to be fluid, and certainly Mike is. Cam is kind of unique. Again, he's 6'2", and his fluidity is definitely there. You can not only see it in the numbers, but when you turn on the tape, you can see him being able to turn his hip, flip his hips, and run vertically. And so when you can transition really well and you can flip your hips and get vertical, that just lessens the dependency on how fast you are. Now, again, not to say Cam Hart's not fast, but again, I don't have to be as fast if I can flip my hips fast. And Cam, Josh Newton, Johnny Dixon, those guys can do that.
Go ahead, Junior.
Yeah, Corey, again, thank you so much, man. I've learned a lot. I even went to your website to see if we can kind of subscribe and kind of get information on players. I know you have a fan section that we can download. So I recommend those who are analytics and kind of want to marry not only analytics but what you see on the field. I encourage everyone to do that. We've been looking for tight ends, and I don't know, is there a tight end that popped out in your opinion? Have you seen this draft?
Yeah, so we are still flushing through the tight end position. So we don't have our grades out for the tight end position yet. Those are slated to be released in the next 2.5 weeks. When I say release, let me be more clear internally. So I'll have visibility to the tight ends here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Yeah, that was actually one of my questions as well.
But I will tell you some of the things we're looking at there. I can tell you some of the traits that we're going to be grading out. So we're going to be grading out their ability to create separation. We're going to be grading out their change of direction, right? So how quickly they're getting in and out of the break. We'll be grading out, obviously, their top end speed. Won't be weighted as heavily as, say, a wide receiver, but we'll still be grading that out. We'll be grading out their acceleration. Very important to have as a tight end and a receiver, right? To have what I call deceptive speed. And that's really all about your acceleration. So if, when I played cornerback, I hated covering guys that would be able to run up on my toes very quickly, right? They may not be fast, right? I might be able to run with them vertically, but if they got on my toes within, tenths of a second, I hated that because I had to respect the vertical. And so that was going to force me to do what? It's going to force me to open my hips. Right. And that's exactly what we. So, we pay very close attention to, those first 3 steps in terms of how you're getting off the ball at the snap from a wide receiver and also from a tight end standpoint, because you've got to be able to create that deception that you're going deep, right? So as a receiver, they're taught everything's vertical until it ain't, right? That's my word for the day, ain't. Everything's vertical until it's not. And so if you have that acceleration, right, you don't necessarily have to run 21, 22 miles an hour. You don't have to, not to be effective at receiver, but you do have to be effective in terms of your ability to accelerate and decelerate so that you can get in and out of your breaks quickly. And that's one of the things that when you start thinking about some of these receivers that are having success in the NFL level, and I give the Rams a lot of credit for this because they were one of the ones who understood it early on, is you look at Cooper Kupp and he's not going to wow you with his vertical speed. I don't know what his 40 time is, but when you ask opposing defensive coordinators, they're not worried about him beating them vertically. They're worried about Cooper Kupp, A, finding the dead spot in the zone, or B, creating separation with his ability to decelerate and explode out of his breaks. Like, that's important. What are you doing at the top of the route? Can you create separation at the top of the route? And so those are some of the things that we're going to be looking for with the tight end as well.
Corey, really quick, thank you so much for your time. I'll end it with this. When you talk about deceptive speed and you talk about what are you doing at the being able, is there anybody? And in my mind, I was thinking of, like, a lot of times we look for, like, the athletes, the big guys. Are there any Cooper Kupps guys, small, average Joes, but traits when they do what they do, traits, and I mean from all positions? Is there any guy that you look at him that's just got that deceptiveness to him to where he looks like an average Joe, but the metrics just jump out, or he does something great? Is there anybody that you could think of, or a few players that the Cooper Kupps and some of these guys like that?
Yeah. So the first person that comes to mind, although he's a good athlete, but I think first impressions, you probably wouldn't label him as a good athlete, and that's Ladd McConkey, right? And so he got wiggle to his game, period, point blank. You know what I'm saying? Like, but and he's fast enough, right? He's got good top end speed. Doesn't have elite speed, but he's got good top end speed. And so he comes to mind, and it's funny because out of high school, he showed up on our radar because he was a 20 plus miles per hour player. So he's a class of 2020 kid. And my son also graduated in 2020. And so we're running these metrics, and I saw this kid out of a small town in Georgia. And he and we were very early on with this technology. And so somebody said, "Hey, take a look at this kid." We put a tracker on him. We clocked him at 20.5 20.3 or 20.4 miles per hour. Now, he was small. He's also small. So you're talking about a small kid in a small rural rural area in Georgia, and he's white. And at the time, he had 0 offers. I thought our technology was wrong. I said, "Hey guys, man, we got this. We got to go back and recalibrate this thing, man. We got this kid running 20 plus miles per hour. Like, this ain't right. Like, what? This ain't right.
We got a bug in here, something.
We got a bug. You know what I'm saying? The MPH, man, our tool is tripping, man. We're not ready for prime time yet. So
The math's not mathing.
He looks like a fullback.
math ain't mathing, right? You tell it, I got, this code is telling me this kid is 20 plus miles per hour. He don't have any offers. The kid is white. He's small, and he's come from a small. I think they play wherever the high school he graduated from. I think they played like a 2A ball or something like that. And so, no, a team came back. It's like, no, this is it. Like, he's running that fast. And so, ironically enough, the school, one of the first schools that offered him was Furman University. And I believe he was committed to Furman at one time, if I'm not mistaken, because that was the team that my son ended up signing and committing to. And then Kirby Smart came in and offered him, and the rest is history, right? I mean, but he was a late offer. So you had your early signing day in December. This kid was still out there with no offers in the second signing day that just took place yesterday, right? And so he was still out there during the second signing day period. And it was like, oh yeah. So Kirby, and he picked up that offer primarily because Kirby Smart saw him play in a basketball game and saw how athletic he was. So he was flying under the radar. Right. Kirby took a shot at him because he was a good athlete in general. There's like, he saw him hooping. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna jump on them. And I believe he was a preferred walk-on at first. Don't quote me on that, but I believe he was a preferred walk-on. But the moral of the story is he would be one that, again, at first blush, like I did, I'm like, man, he's not athletic. He is absolutely athletic. And then if you guys saw the Senior Bowl, you saw him rip up the Senior Bowl, and you saw him create separation in the Senior Bowl and breaking some ankles. Like, don't sleep. So he's one that comes to mind that I would say, and it's probably not the best example, but he was the first one to come to mind.
But he's nice. I saw him at Georgia, man. I saw him at the Senior Bowl, and whenever they put him at the slot, it was barbecue chicken. It was over. He was right. Nice.
Yeah. He'll make his living on the inside. Can he line up on the outside and beat somebody consistently? No, I don't think so. But you line up on the inside, and he's gonna go to work. And so I'm excited about his opportunities. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. And if he lands in a good spot, he can make some noise and potentially be an immediate impact player.
I think Miami would be a good spot for him, honestly. But go ahead, Coach. Yeah, I think Miami would be a good spot for him.
Where are you guys picking?
We're picking 21 and 56 in the second. So 21 in the first.
I don't think he'll be. I think if he's there in the fifth round, maybe, because I don't think he's gonna pick him up early.
I think he'll go like third. I think he'll go third round, third round.
Fourth round. He's the third or fourth round of the latest. And I wouldn't be surprised if they take him in the second round, given what he did in the Senior Bowl. He might have a nasty Pro day, and they see the speed that my man Corey knows about, and he might turn some heads. He might be a second rounder.
Yeah, we had him, and I said his speed isn't elite. So we had him clocked at 21 plus, and we projected his 40 time to be around 4.4.
Oh yeah. He gonna be gone before the third.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
So I think we projected him between a 4.41 and a 4.44, if I'm not mistaken. So
pretty fast.
Yeah, that's pretty good speed.
Corey, before we let you go, there's one guy that I got to ask you about that he's kind of a favorite with us here at Inside Leverage. You probably recognize his name. His name is Malachi Corley. You got any idea or any thoughts on him or any numbers on him?
Well, who was that? Malachi Corley?
Yeah,
What
I think it's
position?
he's a wide receiver. He's Western Kentucky, I think it is.
Western Kentucky.
I don't have him. Let me look and see if I have something on the cheat sheet for him. I know. Yeah. Yes. So, so he's we've got him at a 97.8.
Whoa.
Now we've got him, again, looks to be a big receiver, right? I don't have his height listed here, but
I believe he's listed at 5'10", 215, or somewhere around there, 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah, okay. And 210, right?
215.
Somewhere, I believe he came in at the Shrine Bowl at 215.
Wow.
Yeah. yeah.
Now you can see kind of why,
He was in the Senior Bowl, Chad. He was at 215.
Senior Bowl, 215.
215.
215. Yeah, so I mean, look, we have him as having really good in-game athleticism. Again, his score is a 97.8. And he's productive, right? No doubt about it that he was productive in season not from an in-game athleticism standpoint, just from a pure production standpoint.
Right.
So I think between his production and his IGA score, yeah, I can see why you guys are high on that kid. I don't know his game as well as you guys can imagine. We just wrapped up. We've had 3 signing days? Well, technically 2 signing days, right? With the high school signing day that took place in December.
Right.
Another one coming up too.
We just closed one out yesterday.
Oh.
And so our college football clients I've been knee deep in the class of 2024s and transfer portal prospects. So yeah, I don't know as much about Corley's game personally speaking, but yeah, he's in our system as a guy that you would want.
Yeah, he's one. Like I said, he's one of our favorites here. We tagged him, and we've been keeping an eye and trying to get everybody we've got on the show, try to get their perspective, see if what we see is the same thing that our guests see. So it's aligning pretty close so far.
Yeah,
it matches the eye test.
Yeah, so like for me, so I haven't seen his game, but the score is high, 97.8. So what is his game like at 215? He seemed like he's kind of too big to play receiver.
So at the Senior Bowl, he came in with Chad, that's my bad, Chad, that's your boy. But at the Senior Bowl, he came in with the Deebo Samuels comparison, and the dude is trucking people, physical, snatching the ball to every place. He's running screen plays. He's running the ball. He's in the backfield, so he's a tough competitor. He there was this one play that sticks out to a lot of us. He went. I think he was doing a post pattern. He was going in. He didn't catch the ball, but his main focus is trucking the defender, and he just took him out the game, and it was impressive. We're like, yo, this kid's a monster. So he's very physical. He's a very physical kid.
Yeah, if you get a chance, take a look.
I definitely will.
Yeah. I've heard David Boston, Anquan Bolden, Debo.
I was going with Anquan Bolden too.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of different names around him, but he's a super physical receiver. Super physical.
Yeah, man, I can tell you at 215, even if they list him at 215. So let's say his playing weight is 205. That's a lot. That's a lot, especially at 5'11", which means that he's thick, right? And so if he's thick, having to bring him down, I'm sure he's a tough tackle just listening to his physical measurables.
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Oh yeah. All right, Corey. Well, I am sure you got plenty of stuff to do. We appreciate your time coming on the show and giving us all your information about your company and for me personally, it's fascinating the way technology is meshing with sports, and it's something that I personally eat up, and I know some of the guys on here do as well. So I want to thank you.
I'm geeking out, man. Thank you so much, man. This is awesome.
Awesome. Thanks again for having me on, fellas, and good luck good luck in the draft.
Awesome, Corey. Hey, Corey, I'll tap in
Thank
with you
you
on the
again.
back channels. I know you're doing
Oh my God.
recruitment.
No fullback. No
We'll talk
fullback.
about the fullback class and what they
Nope.
got a little bit later.
Oh
My God.
But leave Corey alone, man.
We'll circle back. We'll circle back, Corey. We'll circle back.
My man.
Thanks
All
again,
right,
man.
fellas. Y'all have a
Have a
good
good
All
night.
right, Corey.
You too.
Corey, have a
man.
appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir.
Wow, French, you and this fullback agenda. But look, hey, he got some guys.
Emotional damage.
I'm gonna look into this TCU cornerback though, man. The Josh Newton.
Yeah,
Because
I wrote down a bunch of names and stuff. So
yeah,
we doing some research
I
on
like.
that.
He mentioned the Cam Hart. I like Cam Hart too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I was really intrigued about the fluidity because in our system, even if you go to a zone or zone man, you could transition from a zone to a man if you're fluid. So that's what
Right.
we need.
I think that man is a little bit more advantageous with this defense.
Yeah, but
they're gonna do. I feel like
you gotta
My
have
bad.
the hip movement.
Yeah, you gotta have that twitch of the hip. They call it the twitch of the hip.
I think it's
And you see it. I'm sorry, mechanic. You see it when a lot of those guys running. There's that specific drill where they run, where they're getting up out of that with that hip. And I like that drill because that, like you said, that fluidity. When you catch somebody who nice with that hip, listen.
That's when you got the Jalen Ramsey.
That's when you got. That's when you got somebody special.
Stop and go. Yeah, it won't stop for the stop and go.
I want to look at that also too with Cam Smith. See what he look like, because that tells you a lot about a cornerback. That one specific motion, you cannot have top end speed, but be able to get in and out of your breaks with your hips and just be in position with combination of turning your head and be an elite cornerback.
And you got
because not everybody's gonna burn you over the top.
You gotta hit him up and find out about Cam Smith. You gotta hit him up because that's a valid question.
Hey, that's key though, Wally. I'm glad you put me back onto that. You put that back in my mind because that's something I'm gonna be looking at from these cornerbacks too. Because I'm a guru. It's in the guru thing. A lot of that not turning your head around has to do with you not being able to get in and out. You know what I mean? Being late, getting out. You know what I mean? With that twitch of the hip.
Don't hate, coach, because I'm a guru. It's you just see the knowledge. I want you.
Yo, listen, you the guru, and I got the end game analytics. You heard what he said.
You know what I'm saying? You don't talk about.
Heard he said.
You see that, friends?
The monikers, the self-proclaimed monikers are just flying.
They're not gonna respect the movement. They're not gonna respect the movement. They're gonna say we live, Frank. They're gonna say it wasn't live.
They say, French, how you know analytics and you don't know no numbers? I tell them it's intuition. How about that?
Intuition.
Ooh. You can't measure it. Let's talk to me nice. Y'all better talk to me nice.
Hey, listen, we got a whole bunch of talent in this panel here. I just want you to understand. Wait till we see Chad Kuiper. Wait till we get Chad Kuiper.
Yo, Chad Kuiper.
Hey, I gotta call Chad Kuiper's agent.
Listen. We gonna send Chad Kuiper the wire. We're gonna get him on the show. You gotta fly him in. You gotta treat him like a celebrity. You gotta fly him in. You gotta get him in the room. He wants the M&Ms with all green M&Ms. Then he's gonna make his appearance, and this Chad Kuiper is gonna be special. You think? Oh, I don't even want to give y'all too much about it. I can't even spoil it.
Nah.
Just let it be. Let it be. We gonna just chop it up, and you know what I mean, any final thoughts? Anything we got on the
docket?
I'm good, man.
I'm
trying to process all the information.
Corey man, that kind of got my brain really, you know what I mean? Because almost like, and that's when we talk about trading down and getting more picks. Like, if you're able to use analytics and extrapolate key metrics from guys that might fly under the radar, and that's why when I talk about guys that fly under the radar, and I talk about like guys with grit, trench guys, those are intangibles that you see, almost like a Rob Hunt. Rob Hunt don't look too sexy, but Rob Hunt does his job, and Rob Hunt got metrics that show up to excel what you see.
And to that point, French, he was look at the guys he mentioned. He wasn't talking about these big name school guys.
Nope.
He wasn't. He didn't talk about these. He barely mentioned. He didn't even say LSU. He didn't say none of these big names. And the guys he was talking about, Cephas, these guys, these guys sound like Dolphin players. Like even the slot kid, like that kid in the slot with the Dolphin with the Georgia kid, it would be nice.
Didn't we get somebody from TCU before?
We had
it was a corn. Who am I thinking about? Not Cordeas. Not Cordeas.
No, Cordell was he went to LSU, didn't he?
No, we had
Tankerson was the LSU guy.
It was around
Clemson. He went to Clemson.
Yeah, it was around that era. We had one of those TCU guys, or
it was Kansas. It was Kansas State. It was Kansas State. It was Daniel Thomas.
No. I'm talking about the other guy. I'm talking about the guy at cornerback, the small school guy we had drafted, and they said it was going to transition. It was
You talking about the guy from Liberty?
Yeah, what was his name?
Will Aiken?
No, that wasn't Will Aiken.
Yeah, it was.
Walt
but I'm not talking about Will Aiken.
Walt.
Not Walt Aiken.
I think I know who you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
He was around that Cordeas Tankersley era.
He got picked late. I know who you're talking about. God damn.
Yeah, and he was a smaller guy and he had some dog in him.
But he was hurt a lot. He was
yeah.
I know who you're talking about. I just can't remember his name.
It wasn't. What was his name?
I'm gonna look it up. Hold on.
I think you guys are wilding.
I know who he's talking about. I know who he's talking about.
He was a special teams guy. But he was hurt a lot. What draft was that?
That was like Kansas State, TCU.
No, bro. He has like a real common name.
Yeah, it's a real common name. It's common.
Not Will.
But
hold on.
Okay. It wasn't Will. No, Will Allen. Will Allen was a little earlier.
No.
That was earlier.
It was, but that's why it was around the Cordeas Tankersley because he was supposed to. It was
Don Jones.
No.
You talking about Taylor?
Taylor.
It was a Taylor guy.
Oh, Jamar Taylor?
Jamar Taylor.
No, he went to Boise State. Boise State.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will Davis.
Where did Will Davis go?
Utah. He was like third round.
Will Davis played good for us.
Yeah, no.
You're talking about Will Davis. Will Davis is the guy we out was always.
No, it wasn't Will Davis. He was hurt. He was a young guy and got. It was. I keep going Cordeas Tankersley because it was within that 2 year range, 2 to 3 year range.
I'll get it eventually.
Because he was like
Walt Aikens went to Liberty for sure.
I did told you this. I'm right. I'm a guru. I am a guru.
Chad knows who I'm talking about.
Either way, the how.
But I bring him up to say he was he didn't pan out because of injury. But when he was on the field, he looked like that number 2 guy we could have. So when we talk about these late round picks and some of these no name guys, I'm comfortable taking a guy that has that grit and those intangibles that you can see, even if he don't really jump off the screen as like a burner, because you ain't gonna always get up to your top end speed. It's what you do in between those lines and around people is what matters.
It wasn't Lippett, was it?
But Lippett. Was it Lippett?
Yes.
Tony
Lippett.
Tony Lippett, Michigan State.
He was a converted wide receiver.
Yeah,
he was a converted wide receiver. DB.
No.
I don't think it was him.
It was around Lippett. It was around Lippett. Who was there with Lippett too?
You're talking about the same era because you remember when
we had Lippett, Bobby
Cedric Thompson, but he was a safety. Bobby McCain was a corner.
It was Lippett because then when Lippett finally got right, that one season
he got hurt. Yeah.
He tore his ACL. So
I remember that.
He was a Michigan State kid. He was a small school.
That was a small school.
It was another guy, bro. I can't forget.
Yeah, Chad, you know what I'm talking about.
Listen,
somewhere in that More ingrained in that era. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, we're not gonna ride the DeLorean here and just spend hours figuring
Hey,
out French's.
now they don't want to be in the DeLorean win the off season, but when we was in the playoffs for the 1 seed,
Reverend French, take us home, baby.
whether we in the DeLorean or the off season, we got the Super Bowl coming up. I pray it's a 0-0 game going into the fourth, and it's a field goal to win the game.
And the kicker's the MVP.
Hey! On that note, we out of here.
It's over there.